Ever wondered how an empty tea bag can suddenly fly into the air? First, the tea bag is emptied and opened into a thin tube, then stood upright on a plate and lit from the top. As it burns downward, the flame heats the air inside, making it rise while cooler air flows in from below. By the time the fire reaches the bottom, only a delicate shell of ash is left. The upward rush of hot air is just strong enough to lift that feather-light ash into the air like a tiny rocket before it cools and gently floats back down.
What you're about to see looks like it completely ignores the laws of physics. But here's a twist. It only works because of them. Watch closely, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why a burnt tea bag suddenly launches into the air like a tiny rocket. Well, basically, the first time I watched this experiment, I honestly thought someone had edited the video. Think about it for a second. You empty a tea bag, unfold it into a tin tube, stand it upright, light atop, and somehow it flies. If you show this to someone without any explanation, they would probably say, "There's no way that's real." But believe it or not, this is actually one of the simplest demonstrations of physics you can do at home. So let's break down what's really happening. When you light the top of the tea bag, the flame slowly burns it away downward. As it burns, it hits the air trapped inside the hollow tube. Here's the important part. Hot air is less dense than cold air. Since it's lighter, it naturally rises upward as that warm air rushes out of the top. Cooler air is pulled in from the bottom to replace it. This creates a continuous upward flow of air through the tea bag, almost like a tiny invisible chimney. Scientists call this the chimney effect, and is the same basic principle that helps smoke travel up a fireplace. Now, here's where things get really interesting. As the paper burns away, almost all of its mass disappears. Most of it is covered into gases like carbon dioxide and water vapor during combustion. What's left behind is an incredibly fragile skeleton of ash. That ash weighs almost nothing compared to the original tea bag. Imagine trying to lift a bowling ball with a gentle breeze. Impossible, right? Now imagine trying to lift a single feather. Suddenly, that same breeze is more than enough. That's exactly what's happening here. The upward moving hot air doesn't become dramatically stronger. Instead, the object becomes dramatically lighter. Once the remaining ash is light enough, the rising air can finally overcome gravity, and off it goes. It's kinda funny when you think about it. The tea bag spends its entire existence holding tea leaves, and the moment it finishes its job, it decides to become an astronaut. Of course, this experiment doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes, the tea bag simply collapses before it finishes burning. Other times, the ash breaks apart before it has a chance to leap out. If you have ever tried it and ended up with nothing more than a pile of ashes on your plate, don't worry, you didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Several factors affect the result. Air currents from a fan, an open window, or even someone walking by can disturb the delicate ash. Different brands of tea bags also use different materials, and some are heavier or reinforced with fibers that don't burn as cleanly. Humidity can even make a difference because damp paper burns differently than dry paper. If you want the best chance of success, perform the experiment indoors where there's very little airflow. Make sure the tea bag is fully unfolded into a straight cylinder so the hot air can flow smoothly upward. And, of course, place it on the fire-safe surface and keep anything flammable well away from the flame. Even though it's a small experiment, fire should always be treated with respect. What I love most about this demonstration is that it reminds us how easily our eyes can fool us. At first glance, it looks like the ash has somehow learned to defy gravity. In reality, gravity never stopped working. The laws of physics never change. We were simply watching several ordinary scientific principles combine in a way that feels extraordinary. Sometimes, science doesn't need giant particle accelerators or billion-dollar laboratories to amaze us. Sometimes all it takes is a simple tea bag, a match, and the curiosity to ask one question. Wait, how on earth did this just happen? And that's usually where the most interesting discoveries begin. So, what's your thought about this? Let me know in the comment and see you in the next video.